Now let's talk about the biggest news in the country: Michael Che versus Tim Dillon.
Yeah.
Which I got in on. Jared's here. So, yeah, obviously, Michael Che is one of the head writers of SNL, which when I criticized SNL, I will be completely honest with you. When I tweeted the things that I tweeted about SNL, when me and Michael Che got into it, I didn't even know he was the head writer. That's how little I pay attention to SNL.
Or that's how little you communicate with one of your friends in comedy.
Yeah, and that's how little me and Michael Che communicate.
Yeah.
Because he won't respond to a text ever. So I didn't know that he got promoted because I just don't pay attention to SNL at all. Occasionally, you see a sketch come across the internet, you watch it. Some of them are good, some of them are bad. I think the funniest thing that they did last year was on the last episode where Michael Che and Colin Jost pimped each other out, where they wrote things that the other one had to say.
Yeah, they do that for Christmas and for the last episode every year.
It was very funny.
Yeah.
That was very funny. Other than that, and I understand it's a hard show, man. You're doing it live. You're trying to write sketches for someone who just came in. It's usually some celebrity who has no comedic chops. And it's live, and it's tough, and I get it. And Michael Che is a very funny guy. But, Michael Che, I posted like a meme or whatever you want to call it, a GIF on my Twitter of like of Jim Carrey in Animal. What's the movie?
Ace
Pet
Ventura?
Detective. Ace Ventura, Pet Detective. When he discovers that it's the same person, when he's going Eichhorn. So I posted. I went, Che is SNL. SNL is Che. Che is SNL. Che, because he really takes SNL criticism personally. Nobody ever says anything about Michael Che personally, who's in comedy. And let's be honest, Tim Dillon and Yannis Pappas are not the only two people who say bad things about SNL. I mean, it's pretty. It happens a lot, and a lot of people in comedy joke about SNL all the time, and they rag on SNL.
Yeah, but they're never going to admit it because they want them to accept their packets.
They love to get they'd take a job there in a second.
Yeah.
I wouldn't. I would never want to work there.
Never?
Never. I would never want to work
Just to see what the bathroom's like at the Rockefeller Center? You would never do that?
I'd go in there, but I would never want to work at SNL. No.
Okay.
So Tim Dillon posted about how it was lazy writing the sketch with about Joe Rogan, which was a bad sketch. It just kind of stank. And I guess Tim was defending Joe too, right? Because like they were saying Joe was taking horse paste as the joke or whatever. He's also friends with Joe, so he's defending his boy and calling the show. And he called the show shit. He said it wasn't always shit. I'm just summarizing because we don't got to read all of them.
Yeah.
He said it wasn't always shit. It wasn't just good in the 70s. It had all these good years. He was basically saying everything was good except for now, which is where Michael Che's on the show.
Yeah.
Right? So, and he went on he did a lot of tweets about it. Tim Dillon had like 4 or 5 tweets about it, right? Where he talked about SNL. Somebody showed it to Michael Che, or I don't know how he found my comment when I was talking about SNL, and then Che clapped back, and Che, like he did with me, he went personal. Whereas like Tim didn't mention Che.
Now, what did he say about you?
What he said about me was I had messaged him and he was at Caroline's.
Yeah.
He was at Caroline's. And I was like, hey, man, if you need like someone to open or host, I was just looking. I wanted to work on stuff. And I also want to hang out with Che. I always want to be friends with Che because I always enjoyed talking to Che. And he's very funny. And, I went to his house once and I asked. I was like, yo, can I come over and watch the fight? When I went over to watch the McGregor Nate Diaz fight, the second one. And I went over. There was a bunch of comics there. We hung out. Like, I like Che. I know Che from when he started. And so that's what I clap back with. So I love Che, as far as comedy goes. I respect him, a lot. He's a very funny dude.
Yeah.
I mean, like I said, like him and DeStefano were funny immediately,
Yeah.
And Che is also very smart and his jokes are also very good.
Yeah, he is.
So I was cracking on SNL and I was cracking on SNL. I was basically doing it when me and him had the beef, I was doing it under the context of TV versus the internet. And it was the time where Andrew Schultz was doing those turn your phone things.
Yeah.
Which the ones on the internet were really good.
Yeah.
Those were really good. He wrote them with like 2 people and they were good. And I was saying like, I was knocking on, corporate sponsored television and like kind of the restrictions that they have, being like, this on the internet is so much better than this and The Daily Show. So I even included The Daily Show.
Yeah.
I wasn't even specifying SNL. I said The Daily Show and SNL, this is better than that, right? As an observer, Michael Che screenshotted my diss on SNL and then went into his private DMs or his text messages. I'm sure it was a text message. And he posted what I wrote, like, hey, I'd love to do a spot on your Caroline show. And he wrote, same guy, right? So basically saying like, oh, this is the same guy who's like loving me. And it's like, dude, I wasn't talking about you when I was talking about SNL. First of all. Second of all, you going personal? So then I went back into my DMs and I found him messaging me about how great a comic I was and how much he looked up to me as a comic.
Yeah.
And I posted that. But then, because I'm not a fucking petty, I erased it, right? So some people saw it, some people didn't. But that was it. And then it was over. And then he wanted me to be on his show, and he gave me a role in his show, and I couldn't do it because I got COVID. So that was the whole thing. Chris did it without me, and that's fine. But I had COVID, and so I missed it.
Yeah, that theme seems to be running true today still.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I may have COVID again.
Yeah.
So that was my thing with Che. But, I figured he didn't remember it because he might have been drunk. So it didn't matter. And I don't care either. And, I don't think he cares. And we kind of moved on. And then he went on Bobby Kelly's show. And they wanted me to come on too. But I was having, and Keith was on there. So it was Keith and Bobby and Che, and they wanted me to come on and for me to Che to talk it out.
Yeah.
And that was the day I was having my gender reveal party. So I couldn't make it. So I went on Bobby's after Che's, talked it out, said all that stuff. I love Che personally. It wasn't an attack on Che. I thought it was a little petty of him to go personal and post a DM, like a private DM. I wouldn't have done that. He did it. I did it back because he did it. That's the reason I did it. I responded. And no big deal. And then I made Bobby laugh because he said something, and I was like, yeah, because comics are always talking about how great SNL is. I mean, give me a fucking break. I'm the only one who said it out loud, but everyone fucking says it, right? So Che takes it personally. I guess he's the head writer. He's partly, he's institutionalized.
Yeah.
He gets his paycheck from SNL.
Yeah.
So it is what it is.
He's going to be defensive because the kid likes shoes, all right? So if you're getting away with his paycheck and his shoes, he's going to come after you.
He's going to come after you.
Yeah.
So he takes it very personally. Same thing happened here. The anatomy is exactly the same. Tim was, as far as the anatomy, was doing what I was doing, was criticizing SNL. He did the same thing. He screenshotted Tim's thing, and he wrote, and we can read this part. He wrote, everyone probably knows this by now who listens to podcasts, but he goes, Tim fucking Dillon, ? And a fan posted he makes $190K a month on Patreon, which is fucking nuts.
Yeah.
And Che screenshotted that and said, I don't care if it's a zillion. I know Tim Dillon, and he ain't what you think he is. He's a sweet, humble guy which that is not true. That is not true. Who really tried at stand-up, got nowhere. Again, that's not true. Became a media personality, whatever that means, because it's much easier, and we're all very happy for him, but don't get fresh Tim. So he went hard, saying he's failed at stand-up and he's a media personality, and doing this thing that like this lofty claim, stand-up is like the height of, just give it up, dude. We don't have a monopoly on funny anymore. Anyone who has a phone can do something funny. I've seen very many funny people who do not do stand-up. Stand-up is not the be-all, end-all of being funny anymore. I understand you're on a fucking old institution that comes with some gravitas, but things fucking change. The only reason why people shouldn't make fun of SNL is because it's elder abuse. Okay, you're punching down and you're hitting an old person. Yeah. What is it, 50 years old at this point? I give them credit for even still being able to be on air and compete with the internet that puts sketches out all the time. Now, this isn't true. Tim Dillon is not known as a media personality. He's known by fans of comedy as a comedian. And not just from his podcast, which I guess you're claiming is a media personality, because he basically puts up sketches that gets millions of views all the fucking time. Yeah. And he does stand-up. And he's been doing stand-up for like 12 or 13 years, and he's very funny. He's funny when he's on stage. You've seen him do stand-up, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Was it funny?
Definitely.
So that's stand-up. He's funny. I mean, he's kind of almost objectively funny. He's a funny dude. Che is also a funny stand-up.
Yeah.
Okay? So Che got defensive and took this swing. And none of it's true. And media personality, I don't know what that means, because Che is not known from his stand-up either, which is what is so hypocritical about this. Nobody knows Michael Che as a stand-up. I mean, they know him from SNL. You know what I mean? They know him from maybe one clip, that Black Lives Matter clip on his first special, which was really good. But he's known from SNL. He doesn't sell tickets like Tim.
They know him as a comedian, though.
They know him as a comedian.
Yeah.
And everyone knows Tim as a comedian. Everyone knows Tim as a comedian. If nobody goes to his podcast going, let me hear, they don't go to his, go like, I want to hear the young, Anderson Cooper. Nobody's going to get the news from Tim. They're going to get comedy. There's not one person who's heard of Tim Dillon who doesn't know he's a comedian. Okay? And I think most people who know Michael Che aren't comedy fans. They know him from SNL. He's known from the show. My point is, he's not known from his stand-up, which is what Michael Che said here. He's like, who really tried stand-up and got nowhere, became a media personality. So it's like, Michael Che, did you get somewhere with your stand-up? You know who's known from stand-up? Nate Bargatze, because he got known from his special. The Italian kid, what's his name? Sebastian Maniscalco is known from his stand-up. He wasn't known for a show. Yeah. He wasn't known from a podcast. He was known from his stand-up specifically. So neither one of these guys blew up because of their stand-up. They're known from their shows. Yeah. One's SNL, one's an independent show. That's basically what it is. So that's just a real inaccurate and hostile dig. And it's not true. None of it's true. If Michael Che was known from his stand-up, he'd be able to sell out the Stress Factory. But I know for a fact that he didn't. So it's like he's a very funny stand-up, but people know him from SNL, okay? Tim Dillon, when people go see him perform, they're not going to see him fucking, do a presentation. They're going to watch him do stand-up. We're all stand-ups. We all came up together. So, but I understand he was getting offensive. He threw some shots. Maybe he was promoting a special. That's the conspiracy theory that Jared has. I think Schultz has that too, right?
I think it is because can you scroll down, Jesse, on the picture? On this one? Yeah, just open it. He said, but don't get fresh, Tim. No one talks like that. All right. Like, no 38-year-old man. The amount of Jordans, he dresses younger than me. He does not talk like that. I think Che, this was like very, like you said, he's smart. He's calculated. He has a special coming out. He definitely did this, or Schultz called him at 5 o'clock in the morning
and said, do it.
When he saw the tweet and said, do it. And he's like, don't give me any credit, but I will talk about this on Flagrant too. So like that's exactly what happened. It's just it lines up too perfectly. But if you really want to get to the semantics of it, they're both media personalities. People do know Michael Che from Weekend Update, which you talk about media, is the same thing. You have a news outlet, and then Tim Dillon goes off on the news and has perspective. So they're both in that same regard, like you said. They're both coming up as stand-ups. My only question is, do you think that Tim Dillon meant to tweet out everything he said about Michael Che, or do you think he had some spelling mistakes from the grease on his fingers because he'd be eating the donut?
It's a little bit of both.
Yeah.
Now let's go to what Tim Dillon says in response. So Tim Dillon, this right here, right? Yeah, Tim Dillon hits him. He goes, here's the reality. I sell more tickets than Michael Che ever has. I don't think he's allowed to use this website per his job, which is true. He's not allowed. So he was taking a shot like, hey, you're an employee. Yeah. Which is true. Michael Che got removed from Twitter because Lauren said you can't tweet anymore. You can't have your own thoughts out there anymore. And I've built something on my own that he could never do. We don't know that. But so far, it's not happened. Che has done well for a drunk who can barely read. But his show sucks, and he knows it.
Now, which show was he referring to?
SNL.
Okay, SNL. Yeah.
So, because that's the context of this argument. And that was it. And then he just wrote a joke, me versus Michael Che. And I never say the kid's name. And this little kid who reports on comedy is having a stroke. And that was it. And then he moved on. And that was it. And then Che responded, all fair points. So maybe that he was promoting the special because he's like, okay, job is done. He goes, all fair points. I don't want no trouble.
He's creating hoopla.
But then he came back and he took another shot and he said, remember, my special comes out. Remember, we live in a country where all things are possible. Donald Trump was the president and Tim Dillon is a star. That's another shot. It's another shot at him. And then I think Tim Dillon went on Louis J. Gomez's podcast and said, hey, you had Donald Trump on your show. And also he embraced the media personality thing, which, I mean, this is all just semantics and stuff. So those were the shots that were fired. and that's what happened. And I don't think Michael Che was promoting the special guest. It might have been in part. That might have been part of his thinking. But I think he takes it very personally. I think he defends SNL and he ties his identity to SNL. I think he identifies. Whatever show I was on, I didn't do that. I didn't take it. Like, my shows were all shit. Like Fusion, that show sucked. But even if it was good, and sometimes good, like SNL is, or like a 10, I still would never tie my identity to the show. You know, I would especially if I'm not performing in it. And from what I understand, he didn't even write that. From what I heard, that's kind of the thing. So I think because this happened with me too. So I think he just ties his identity to SNL, and that's what it is.
He's smart, all right? He's smart because we're talking about it. We're talking about it right now. We're getting down to it. You know, when you even talk about it, like, he's not going to be able to have $190,000 worth of Patreon because he's in a confinement of NBC. So he's never going to be able to do that. If we can really see how it is, if someone comes after that damn Michael Che and then says things about the show, then we can really see if this is the true thing. But I don't know. I just think it's on his play. He's just promoting and he's just going out there. It's like the kid that's always in detention and he goes out to recess for one time and then he throws sands in people's pants and stuff like that. He's just having too much fun because he doesn't really get to experience this on a daily basis.
Right.
So
he's getting into the fun a little bit.
Yeah.
Look, I'm for it. It's probably been good for both of them. You know, we're comedians. We should take shots at each other.
Yeah, it's fun.
It's fun. It's kind of like.
And if they were really about that action, they would hit up Jake Paul so they can get on the undercard because they can really make some money then.
It's drama. People love drama. The truth is, they're both very funny.
Yeah.
And so check them both out. You already know who both of them are. So that's the end of that.